That morning, I wasn't searching for evidence. I wasn't even suspicious. At least, that's what I told myself. I simply wanted my lucky shirt, a faded blue button-down that seemed to smooth life's rough patches. It was the first thing I thought of upon waking, oddly absent from the closet. I found it crumpled in the bedroom corner, an afterthought in one of Emma's get-to-it-eventually piles. Piles she usually avoided like the plague. She hated the shirt, calling it boring. But when I picked it up, a faint cologne scent hit me like a cold splash, not mine, on a shirt unworn for months. I examined it. Something felt wrong. Adrian, Emma's colleague, wore a similar scent, annoyingly close to mine, like a gas station knockoff. The thought wormed its way in. Could it be him? It wasn't the first red flag. Lately, Emma had been different. Her phone smiles, glancing over her shoulder as if sharing a private joke. Work calls answered in another room. Late nights at the office smelling of wine and something warmer. But the shirt. It was like a calling card left at a crime scene. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't questioning myself. Second-guessing cracks in her stories. Convincing myself I was paranoid. The shirt confirmed it. I wasn't crazy. The question was what to do. Confrontation would be too easy. Too simple. I needed answers, and Emma's practiced lies wouldn't suffice. If she could conjure stories from thin air, I needed something concrete, irrefutable. So I launched into full investigative mode. You'd be amazed what you can learn with access to someone's iCloud. Connecting her phone to my account was simple. A few minutes sifting through texts and GPS history, and the mess unraveled like a cheap sweater's pulled thread. Her messages to Adrian were nauseating. Inside jokes, double entendres, even "I miss you" texts sent late at night when she claimed to be working. Worst were the calendar entries, not even hidden. Their meetups disguised as client consultations, dinner at that trendy Italian place, drinks at our old bar. Then, it appeared, the cabin. Adrian booked a working retreat at a secluded spot. Emma marked it on our shared calendar as book club retreat. The irony was almost humorous. Emma never read anything longer than a blog post. The cabin was the final straw. It wasn't just a meeting place. It was an excuse, a fantasy carved from our life and repurposed for their convenience. It was all there in the messages. Adrian boasting about the fireplace and rustic charm, Emma promising plenty of wine. She was going to kiss me goodbye and drive straight to him. I stared at the phone screen, the weight pressing down like a lead blanket. Then a switch flipped in my brain. I smiled, not from happiness or anger, but something colder, sharper. They wanted a romantic getaway. I'd ensure it was one they'd never forget. I recalled Emma's goodbye kiss that morning, casual affection feeling more like habit than love. "I'll be back Sunday night," she said, forcing a smile. "Don't forget to water the plants." I nodded, maintaining neutrality. "Have fun with the girls." Her smile faltered briefly, a crack in the mask. She grabbed her bag and left without a word. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the garage. Her phone's GPS pinged her location. I was driving to the cabin, nestled off a quiet back road, surrounded by trees and empty space. Perfect for team-building exercises, or in this case, betrayal. Upon arrival, the cabin came into view. Picturesque, with a wraparound porch and tall windows. Quaint, cozy. The type Emma used to say we should rent. As I approached, I saw Emma and Adrian exiting. Even better, I thought quietly. I'll surprise them on their return. I quietly entered, unpacked a small stash of props, arranging everything with almost therapeutic precision. By the time I finished, the cabin looked like the opening act of a sinister play. When Emma and Adrian arrived, the cabin was dimly lit, a single lamp casting a warm glow. A bottle of red wine sat on the counter next to 2 glasses, the corkscrew already laid out. Faint instrumental jazz played, the kind Emma claimed was soothing. Emma stopped, tilting her head. "What the?" she whispered. Adrian followed, his brow furrowing. "Did you do this?" he asked. She shook her head slowly, her eyes darting around. "No. I thought you might have." Before he could respond, I stepped through the doorway, closing it with a deliberate click. "Welcome," I said, my voice calm, almost conversational. I raised a glass of wine, my addition to their little party, and gave them a faint smile. I thought I'd join you for this special occasion. Emma froze, her face draining of color. Adrian turned toward me, his jaw tightening, his eyes flicking to the door. Nathan, Emma stammered. What are you doing here? I ignored the question, letting the silence settle. I set the glass down and took a step forward. You know, I began, keeping my tone conversational. When you've been with someone long enough, you start to notice patterns, changes, little things that don't quite add up. I looked at Emma, holding her gaze as she shrank back. And then there are the big things, I added, glancing at the wine bottle and the carefully set scene. Things like this. Adrian finally spoke, his voice steady but tinged with nerves. Look, man, we can explain. Shut up, I snapped, my calm veneer cracking. His mouth snapped shut, and I turned back to Emma. Let's skip the part where you both insult my intelligence by pretending this isn't what it looks like, I said, my voice dropping, each word measured and deliberate. Because I know everything. Emma's hands trembled slightly. Her bag slipped to the floor. Nathan, please, I wasn't finished, I cut in, my voice cold. I took another step forward. Tonight, I continued, we're going to clear a few things up. The tension was suffocating. Emma stood frozen, her breath shallow. Adrian edged closer to her, his hand twitching. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder, slapping it onto the coffee table. The sharp sound made Emma flinch. Adrian just stared, his face pale. Go ahead, I said, nodding toward the folder. Take a look. Emma hesitated, her trembling hands hovering above the cover. When she finally opened it, her eyes darted over the contents. Screenshots of their messages, candid photos, timestamps, GPS logs. I'd even included a printout of the cabin reservation confirmation under Adrian's name. Her voice cracked. Nathan, I can explain. No, I said firmly. You can't. And even if you could, I wouldn't want to hear it. I turned to Adrian, visibly sweating. And you, I said, my voice dropping a notch. Impressive work, booking this place on the company card. I'm sure HR will be thrilled to hear about this little retreat. Adrian stammered. I didn't mean for this to... Save it, I snapped. You think I care about your excuses? This isn't about what you meant. It's about what you did. Emma's voice broke, desperate and pleading. Nathan, please, we can work through this. It doesn't have to end like this. I laughed, a cold, hollow sound. Work through this? Do you even hear yourself? You've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, and now you want to play the victim? No, Emma, there's no working through betrayal. I stepped closer to the fireplace, picking up a bottle of whiskey. The amber liquid gleamed as I held it up, examining the label as if considering a drink. Adrian finally found his voice, shaky. What do you want, man? Money? An apology? Just tell me what you want. I turned to him, letting a cold smile spread across my face. What I want, I repeated, as if genuinely surprised. I walked over to the fireplace, tossing the whiskey bottle into the flames. The liquid burst into flames. Both Emma and Adrian jumped back. What I want, I said, my voice calm despite the chaos, is for both of you to remember this moment every time you think about lying, cheating, or betraying someone. I want you to hear the crackle of this fire, and you'll wonder if the next person you mess with will let you go. The silence was broken only by Emma's sobs and the crackling fire. Adrian seemed frozen, his eyes darting between me and the door. I could see his fight-or-flight instinct warring within him. He wasn't brave enough to fight, and I wasn't letting him flee. You know, I began, breaking the tension. I spent a lot of time thinking about this moment, how it might play out, what I might say. I've always believed that actions speak louder than words. I stepped closer, towering over the coffee table where the folder still sat open. Adrian flinched when I leaned down, my voice dropping to a near whisper. And tonight, Adrian, I want you to understand something very clearly. Actions have consequences. He swallowed hard. What do you mean? He stammered. I straightened and gave him a cold smile. I mean Claire. That's your wife's name, isn't it? Adrian's face went ashen. What did you do? I let the question hang in the air, savoring the panic in his voice. Oh, nothing drastic, I said lightly. We just had a little chat earlier today. She's quite the conversationalist, by the way. Smart, funny, and incredibly forgiving. At least she was at first. Adrian staggered back, his hands gripping the couch. You told her? Oh, I told her everything, I said, my voice calm as a knife's edge. And do you know what she said? She thanked me. Can you believe that? Thanked me for saving her from wasting another minute of her life on a lying, cheating fraud like you. Emma gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Nathan, stop, she pleaded. This isn't... I cut her off, turning on her with a glare that made her flinch. Fair? You think you're in a position to lecture me about fairness? She shrank back, her tears flowing freely. Please, she whispered, her voice cracking. We can fix this. I shook my head slowly. No, Emma, you broke this, and now you get to live with the pieces. I turned back to Adrian, my voice sharp and steady. And you, Adrian, I've already sent the proof to your company's HR department and your boss. Oh, and just a little bonus. I may have mentioned the cabin and the company card. Something tells me fraud investigations aren't good for climbing the corporate ladder. Adrian's mouth opened and closed. His shoulders sagged. He knew he was finished. I picked up my jacket, slipping it on with deliberate ease. I think we're done here, I said, walking toward the door. But before I left, I stopped, turning back. Oh, by the way, I said over my shoulder, the police can come in the morning. I glanced at Adrian. You should probably see a lawyer. Emma's eyes widened in fresh panic. What do you mean? What did you do? I smirked, stepping outside into the cool night air without answering. Let them figure it out. The door closed behind me, muffling Emma's cries and Adrian's curses. I savored the crisp night air, the quiet of the woods contrasting sharply with the storm I'd left inside. It wasn't over yet. Not for them. I leaned against the cabin, pulling out my phone. One last touch. I opened the music app, connecting to the Bluetooth speaker inside, queuing up a haunting, slow melody, a piece Emma used to listen to during reflective moments. It wasn't just music. It was a message, something to gnaw at their nerves long after I was gone. For a few seconds, I stood there, imagining their reactions. Adrian pacing, trying to piece together the wreckage of his professional and personal life. Emma sobbing, flipping through the folder again and again. Both trapped, not by locks or threats, but by their own actions. Their betrayal had become their prison, and I was the architect. As I walked back to my car, I felt light. No rage, no sorrow, no aching chest. I felt free. I rolled down the window, letting the crisp air fill the car as I took a deep breath. It was over. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the first hints of dawn were creeping over the horizon. The house loomed in the soft light, familiar, yet foreign. This place had been our home, filled with laughter and plans, but now it was a symbol of everything Emma had destroyed. I stepped inside and was greeted by the faint scent of her perfume. It no longer twisted my stomach or made my heart ache. It was just a smell. I grabbed a trash bag and started tossing things into it. Her beauty products, trinkets, framed photos that once captured our happiest moments. I paused at one photo, a candid shot of us at the beach, her smile radiant as she leaned into me. I studied it before dropping it in the bag. That version of us didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never had. By mid-morning, the house was scrubbed clean of her presence. I didn't feel triumphant or bitter, just free. I'd spent so long trapped in the wreckage of our marriage that I'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe. Now I could finally start fresh. I made coffee, took my mug to the porch, watching the sun climb higher. The warmth felt like a promise. Whatever came next would be on my terms. Emma and Adrian would wake up to the mess they'd made, their lives unraveling, but I wouldn't be there to see it. I didn't need to be. I had my closure, and I wasn't going to let their chaos define me anymore. As I sipped my coffee, a faint smile tugged at my lips. Let the past burn like whiskey in a flame. The future was mine to write. I contacted Detective Reynolds, providing the evidence, documents, GPS data, correspondence, and the cabin's address. He understood the personal nature of this, but agreed to proceed. Adrian's career was finished. The fraudulent use of the company card would only add fuel to the fire. Emma's complicity was for her to explain when the time came. The drive home felt different. The tension was gone. I rolled down the window, letting the crisp air fill the car. I took a deep, unhurried breath. It was over.